Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Dear students, second grade, Faculty of Commerce English section. Today we have this first section of Analytical Economics. We will have the concepts of demand, supply, and equilibrium in the market. So some objects are familiar with us in micro and macroeconomics, and we will have a quick revision about these concepts. So first concept we have is demand, and we have the elasticity of demand, supply and the elasticity of supply, and equilibrium. So about demand. So demand curve is represented by quantity demanded at each price downward sloping shape. So the demand curve is a downward sloping shape. This is a downward sloping shape. And each point is represented by quantity and the price. So we have on the vertical axis price, and we have on the x-axis quantity. And as we see, so it's downward sloping shape. So as price falls, quantity increasing. Quantity increasing. So law of demand states that quantity demanded increases as price falls. Quantity demanded increases as price falls. And there can be some exceptions, like giving goods. Giving goods are inferior goods. So there is a positive relationship between quantity and price. And in some cases, as its prices decreases, quantity decreases. As prices increases, quantity increases, and so on. So the vertical height of demand curve represents the marginal benefit. Vertical height of the demand curve represent the marginal benefit of the commodity in question. Marginal benefit is an addition to total satisfaction resulting from the consumption of one more unit. So as we see on the downward sloping shape, as we go down the curve, we consume more. So we have in total benefits increases, and also the satisfaction increases. Second concept we have is we will have like how we can draw the demand curve. Draw with points. We have price and the quantity demanded. So for this example, is Mr. Ali has a demand for ice cream. As we see, price falls, quantity demanded increasing. At price of 25, Mr. Ali demand 8 units. At price of 20, Mr. Ali demand 12, and so on. So if we have draw this curve by a graphical model, we will draw it like this. As we have, this is price and this is quantity. This is a point of 25. And this is quantity of 8. And we represent it as a point. Second point is 20 and 12. And we represent it by a point. Third point was 15 and 16. So as we see, quantity increases as prices decreases. So as we see, at the point of 15, we consume 16 units. So as we see, it's dimension. So we have a downward slope. At price of 10, we consume 22 and so on. So when we represent it by graphically, we have these points, and this represent a downward sloping shape. So this is the shape of the demand curve, as we see. This is the shape of the demand curve. So each point represent marginal utility. In general, we have a downward sloping shape. So we have two shapes or two different cases between movement along the curve and shifting. Movement along the curve represent changing in the quantity demanded and change in price. So here as example, price was 20, quantity is 12, price is 10, quantity is 22. So quantity demanded depends not only on its price, but also prices of other commodities, income, tastes, and so on. But we draw demand curve assuming that the variables other than its own price remain constant. So by drawing this shape, I assume that all other factors are constant. Movement along the demand curve changes in quantity demanded caused by changes in its own price. We call it change in quantity demanded. So changing only in price and other factors are constant make the quantity demanded changes. But we have another concept of a change in demand. And change in demand happens when changing in quantity demanded caused by change in other variables. We call it change in demand. So we have example of other factors like when the price of a substitute falls. Substitute falls. When the price of a substitute falls, demand increases. And when a price of a substitute is high, demand. When price of a substitute is low, we have decrease in demand. When price of a substitute is high, we have increase in demand. The price of complement, prices of complement. When a price of a complement good rises, demand decreases. When a price of complement decreases, demand rises. And we have also expected price. When we have expected price are higher, at this moment we increase our demand. When have expected price lower, we decrease demand. Income. When income falls, we decrease demand. When income is high, we increase demand. So we increase demand when income is high of normal goods and decrease the consumption of inferior goods. We have also another factor that is population. When we have more population, demand increases. When we have a little population, demand decreases, and so on. So about change in demand, we have shifting. So when we have a change in demand, we shift to the right when demand increases and shift to the left when demand decreases. In this example, there is a new demand curve to the right, so there is a shift to the right. That's because there is increase in demand. But the movement from A to B represent increasing in quantity demanded. About this concept, we have individual demand and the market demand. Individual demand is only for one person on a micro basis, but the demand of the market, we call it aggregate demand, is for the whole population. So about the market, and we interested more in the market because demand in the market represents the aggregate demand. And we have the aggregate demand by summing up individual demand curves horizontally. So when we sum the demand curve of Park and Lee and Kim, we have the market curve. We will then have the market curve. So the market curve is represented by adding or summing up the quantity demanded by Mr. Park and Mr. Lee and Mr. Kim, and then we will have the market demand. Market demand is the summation of 6 plus 7 plus 10, so it's 23, and it's the same equilibrium price here is 15. So we have 15. The price for the quantity of 23. Elasticity of demand. We have two concepts are very, very important. First is elasticity of demand, and we have by elasticity, we can measure the responsive of quantity demanded to a very small change in price or income. So if I say that you have small increase or decrease in your income, how your quantity demanded act? Price elasticity of demand, how much change will happen to quantity demanded responsive in a very small change in price. So we have elasticity price and we have the change in quantity demanded over the average quantity demanded over change in price over price average. So we have here, this is the average, and this is the change in quantity demanded, and this is the change in price, and this is the average price. And we have the negative signature. That's because it represents the negative relationship between quantity demanded and price. So as we see, there is a 5 cases of elasticity. We have 5 cases of elasticity. First case of elasticity, we have first case of elasticity, the unit elastic. Second case, perfectly elastic. For third case, we have elastic, inelastic. This is 4, inelastic, and 5 is zero elastic. We have zero elastic. So as we see, we have 5 cases and we will have in our examples. So in general, the value of price elasticity of demand varies depending on which point on the demand curve it's measured. 3 exponential cases. First, price elasticity is zero. That's because we have a vertical demand curve. And this is a very, very important 3 cases. First case, when we'll have a demand curve that is vertical. Vertical demand curve. So as we see, this is the price and this is the quantity. There is no change in quantity. So we have, in the first case, we have zero. And we have changing in price. So the overall assumption is zero. But when we'll have horizontal demand curve, that means that there is infinity, because small changes in price make a huge difference in quantity. And we have also the unit elastic. Unit elastic, when we'll have a fixed change, that change in quantity is equal to change in price. So that's unit elastic. And as we see, when we have the elasticity of price elasticity is more than 1, that's mean the demand is elastic. When we have is less than 1, it's inelastic. When we have the price elasticity is equal to 1, it's unit elastic. The determinants of price elasticity of demand. Characteristic of the commodity. Elasticity is small in case of a necessity good. When we have a necessity good, so we don't have substitutes, that make a good is very important and very, very small elasticity. And we, in case of luxury goods, we have large elasticity. Second, the existence of good substitutes. When we have many good substitutes, that means we have large price elasticity. Third, proportion of expenditure on it among total expenditure. When we have large proportion of income spending on this good, we have a large price elasticity. And about time period, when we have a long time period, that make price elasticity larger. And this is the income elasticity of demand. Income elasticity of demand, it's a relationship between changing quantity demanded over average quantity demanded over change in income over average income. And it represents the responsive of the quantity demanded to small change in income. There is a no minus sign because we have a positive relationship between quantity demanded and income in case of normal goods. So if we have inferior goods, elasticity is less than zero. About normal goods, we have elasticity more than zero. Necessities, the elasticity is between 1 and 0. Luxuries, elasticity is larger than 1. Next section, we will have supply. Thank you for your attention.